before, but I didn't come to that because I was busy getting the show ready.
Yeah, Northamptonshire Natural History Society had Martin Griffiths talking about what if we met aliens. So that was quite a thought-provoking topic.
He wants to come and live round Oswestry. We've met a few.
What do you mean? What if? They're everywhere.
Sorry for the listeners listening in Oswestry. But first of all, we want to all put our hands together and clap and give Mick a big clap for helping out Astro Radio and coming in to sponsor Reach Out and Touch Space. That's absolutely brilliant, Mick. And we'll, over the next few months, we'll develop the show and develop some ideas that we'll sit down and talk about some ideas.
No worries, mate. It's my pleasure and my honour.
Honour. Yeah, it's our honour, really, to be honest.
Well, no, it just takes UK Cloud Magnets another step forward to world domination.
Well, I noticed they are kind of, you know, now that Trump's no longer there, with UK Cloud Magnets now, and they're the next.
Oh, we couldn't swear on this show.
No, you can swear.
You just said the T word.
It's not the BBC. So first of all, I'm going to go around the chat, the panel tonight, and we got in the panel tonight. We got Daz. Daz, what you been up to?
Well, not a lot. Cloud watching most of the time. Managed to get out a couple of times over the Christmas period and New Year with the DSLR. No point in getting the telescopes out. Managed to catch some nice images of the Andromeda Galaxy with the DSLR and some moon shots and that. But other than that, catching up with the news and everything else, it's been pretty slow time since you've been off the air, Pete. So it's nice to see you back. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I've been off the air, but you know, the shows have been going on. There's been other shows going on, but yeah. So
JD's been holding us together.
Yeah, Roger, have you been doing any observing or any photography or any astronomy at all? I mean, I've done very little, to be honest.
Well, I've been doing some lunar work, doing mosaics with my planetary camera, and I'm now setting up some equipment that I've got for Christmas, which is a focuser. So I'm learning how to set that all up with Nina, which is becoming a bit of a headache, especially when you only get an hour or two visibility. But we're getting there, and just trying to update the images that I've taken over the last 12 months to see how well I've improved over the time that I've been learning this astrophotography.
What planetary camera do you use?
I'm using the new ZWO 462, which I primarily bought for the Mars opposition, and it's worked out quite well. Excellent.
And Dave, I mean, I know you've been falling over and banging your ear for quite a while, but that was terrible, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, a bit of a shock, but there you go. So instead of joining in on the Federation of Astronomical Society webinar about COVID and outreach, astronomy outreach, A&E instead.
Yeah. So have you managed to get any observing in at all over the Christmas period and up till today, really?
Only bits and starts, really, because you get a good night, you go, oh, it looks really good, and then you set all your kit up and you get going and you take a few subs and then, oh, it's gone all claggy and horrible or cloudy again. So yeah, don't really get a good run at anything at the moment. But hopefully tomorrow night looks like it might be good, but not going to say anything about that.
No, I mean, to be honest, since Christmas Day, we haven't had really a clear night here in Shropshire at all. I mean, Daz will confirm that one. We've had nothing. It's been absolutely awful. Hence, I mean, but then
that's because people like Roger keep buying new gear. That's what it
is. We know.
Well, it's just stuff that's in stock.
But then again, do I need a clear night? Really? Do I? Come on.
You haven't got time, have you?
I haven't got time to do that. I just set the telescopes up somewhere in the world to go and do it for me, and then go back and get the data a little bit later. That suits me fine. That one. That suits me. I don't get time these days to do anything, to be honest. Tomorrow I've got to do what am I doing tomorrow? I can't even remember what I'm doing tomorrow. Something to Cardiff University to do with teaching primary school kids, and what have you. But yes, I don't get a lot of time. One thing I was going to ask you, Dave, you're a big advocate and obviously have written a book on Affinity Photo. What are the benefits of Affinity Photo over Photoshop? Because a few people asked me this question.
Well, it's is virtually a replacement for Photoshop, but unlike Photoshop, where you pay an ongoing monthly fee ad infinitum, it's a one-off license cost.
So, and it's a lot cheaper, I would imagine, as well.
It's less than £50, and that's a one-off license cost.
And
they've just released a beta version, which I've had to play with over the weekend because they've only just released the Windows version, and that actually will stack raw images and fits images as well, so you can stack images as well as process them once you've done that.
Stefan in the Soviet Union's just sent an email in. He says, "Is it available for Mac or is it only PC?"
No, it's Windows and Mac. Yeah, there's a Windows, Mac, and there's an iPad version as well.
Really?
But it's a separate license for each platform.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want it on a PC and a Mac, or a Mac and an iPad, you have to buy 2 different licenses.
Right. So and they can buy the your book from your website, I presume.
Yeah. star-gazing.co.uk. Yeah.
Excellent. Get out there and buy that.
And I've just put a tutorial on my YouTube page as well, to show you how to do the image stacking.
Oh, that's good.
So I've released that today.
Excellent. That's great. So we'll come down to John. John.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not really done a great deal. Which most of my observing has been sort of binoculars and handheld camera, because it's been quite cloudy, and we've had the sort of COVID-19 shutdowns, and since the beginning of November I've been building an observatory, a garden shed type observatory.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of 90% finished now, so I'm now thinking about electrics and running cables around the observatory, and then next thing I've got my pier installed, so I can get my Orion Optics telescope installed. So hopefully in the next week or two, it's all systems go.
Excellent. That sounds absolutely great. Simon, have you been painting anything?
No, they won't let me in. Apparently, after you've done 20 coats, that's enough, Mr. Holbeach. I love the Great Conjunction. That was absolutely amazing. Did some live streams for that, Between the Clouds. So that was really cool. And then I do all that funny blipping and sort of Graves radar thing.
Yeah.
So I watched the quadrant. It was absolutely thick with cloud in Somerset, but I picked up the radar signals from that and watched the shower with that. So that's actually quite an interesting one this year. So that's cool. And then this weekend, I have been installing my UK RAA magnetometer in the back garden. And this afternoon, I was comparing it to the results from Lancaster magnetometers, and it's a good match. So I'll be doing my... Still, whilst the clouds are there, I'll be able to look at space weather and what's about to kill us. That'll be fun.
I still haven't been forgiven for at Solarsphere when I went to that lecture on that meteor kind of blipping thing, and I sat there for 10 minutes and I said, that's 10 minutes of my life I'm never going to get. I was so excited, you can tell.
You've got to be in it, Pete. It really is interesting stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to be into it, really have. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was one o'clock.
Not everyone's cup of tea, we understand that, but
It was 1 o'clock in the morning and I was tired, I have to say.
I also managed to get along to that FAS on COVID, which was very useful. They did start with a bit on health and safety, but unfortunately, Dave Eagle missed that, tripped up and banged his ear. So had he done his risk assessments, I'm sure he would have been okay. Yeah,
It would have been fine.
I caught up on it today. So
Yeah.
it has been recorded and it's available via the FAS website and YouTube. Well worth looking into if you're doing your outreach for your societies or any club, whether you're doing beekeeping or stamp collecting out there in the fields, whatever. If COVID is affecting your outreach, you need to tune into this channel. It's really good stuff. Very informative.
Sounds absolutely excellent. And we'll come down to Michael down at Ghost Space Watch. How's things going and what have you got coming up, Michael, in the near future?
Yeah, okay. Not going very well this week. I had to cancel the meeting last week because I had a mishap as well on the day of the meeting. slipped over and jarred my left leg. So I wasn't in any good state of hosting the meeting. But that's now been rearranged for the 20th of January. Now, but I have also, just before that, completed the latest issue of Capcom magazine, and that's now available from the website. But I'll go through the forthcoming meetings, if I may, a couple of them. So Wednesday, the 20th of January, we got JT to the Space Guard Centre in Knighton with research for near-Earth objects. On the 27th of January, we got Dr. David Whitehouse, who's the former BBC science correspondent, with a talk entitled Space 2069, which is, some of you will know, is the same title of his book. And then on Wednesday, the 3rd of February, we have Naomi Rowe-Gurney, who's a PhD student of the University of Leicester, with a talk about planetary science and the James Webb Space Telescope. That's what we got coming up in the next few weeks.
I'll tell you who you ought to get on there as well. Michael is local to me in Shropshire, and well, halfway between me and you actually. He's kind of over Telford, Cosford way. Is John Thatcher. He was involved in the engineering side of the James Webb Telescope. He's now retired.
Right. Okay. So what was the name again there, Pete?
John Thatcher.
Okay. I'll contact you for his details if I may. So
yeah, phone number. He's on the committee of Shropshire Astronomical Society.
Oh right. Okay. I might have met him in the past then. So that's okay. Yeah.
So Dave, what have you been up to?
Well, what did I get for Christmas? That's the question. Did I get a new telescope? Did I get a clear sky? No, I got COVID. I got COVID-19 for Christmas.
Oh,
so
no.
that put me back a week or so, locked down, can't go anywhere and all that rules that we have these days. But yeah, we survived it. We got better. Very lucky. It was a mild dose of it, I guess. We're lucky. Some people haven't been so lucky, sadly. So yeah, hopefully that's the end of that. Inoculations of, the vaccinations are in hand now, and hopefully the world's going to be a better place in 2021. What did we do for the astronomy wise? Very little clear sky. We had snow. So because it was cloudy, I thought I'm going to join the Cloud Magnets, and I signed up for Cloud Magnets the other day, and now I'm a member of. And I'm hoping we're going to have explained about this wooden spoon. There's an award that goes out, the Wooden Spoon Award. And Mick might be able to tell me.
Yeah, I'm just going to come to Mick now to ask him what he's been up to. And
well, that's my question then, Mick. What do we do?
I mean, the thing is, Mick, first of all, explain to the listener, because I mean, our listening figures are in the usual figures tonight, in the hundreds of thousands. Explain to the listener what UK Cloud Magnets is, and then explain to Dave what the wooden spoon is, because I know what this wooden spoon is. I've won it.
Well, Pete, I mean, you know what I'm going to say to Dave. Dave, stay tuned, mate.
I'm excited. I think Stacey's just been awarded it, so
yeah.
Let's mention our Stacey as well.
Stacey got the first proper wooden spoon, because pre 2021 we used to do virtual wooden spoons, which is basically a picture of a spoon and it was in the post. And this year, a good friend of mine has got a laser machine, so I sent him a batch of 50 normal wooden spoons, kitchen spoons, and he lasered on the back of them the group's logo, and I've been spooned by Daddy Magnety and Mick.
Nothing wrong with a bit of spooning.
So Dave, if you want Daddy Magnety and Mick to spoon you, mate, now that you're a Magneteer.
What can I say?
It's consensual.
It's consensual. Don't knock it till you tried it. We're all growing ups, and it's a great world.
But yeah, I mean, what's UK Cloud Magnets? We're just another astronomy Facebook group, really. We do a little bit more, and we do things a little bit different within the group and for the group and outside the group, really. So I just regard it as another astronomy group, but everybody who's in the group just say it's an extended family, which it's nice and warming from my side of it, because I created the group about 2.5 years ago, and it just gets bigger and bigger and just gets better and better. And a lot of the magneteers say, oh, it's all down to making all the rest of it, but it's not. It's down to the members. So, Dave, unless you're going to be like there on scene, taking part, mate, you know what I mean? You're on my hit list.
I'll be there in the shadows, mate. Don't you worry about it. It sounds like what we do here. It sounds like what the magnets do. So I'm looking forward to it. You do quizzes as well, is that right?
We used to do quizzes, and they basically died a death when we stopped giving out freebies.
No incentive, eh?
But no, I mean, the person who was running the quiz had to take a step down, basically. But I mean, in conjunction to the quizzes, we do, photos of the month, photos of the week, object of the month competition. We just started a new photo challenge, which is open to anybody who's got an iPhone, really. That's going quite well. And if you enter the photo challenge, you have to get awarded a UK Cloud Magnet Certificate of Achievement.
Wow.
So, Dave, get your iPhone out, mate.
That's all. I'll have to buy one. I don't do iPhones. The only Apple I like are the green red ones that you can buy to your.
The Isaac
You've got
Newton
the
ones.
Nokia 6210 of you, Dave.
Only the Newton ones are Dave.
That's it. The ones Isaac Newton liked.
Yeah.
Oh God, Pete, what's that?
I used to have one
I'm
of
not being funny, but Mr. Williamson, isn't that a bit of a promotion going on there?
I'm on my phone, that. I don't know phones with apps on and all that. I've got one of them.
Yeah, but
That
the
was the
thing is about
best.
your mobile, Pete, is it's never turned on.
Well, I can't get a signal in the house. We're locked
Well,
in.
if you switch it on, it automatically finds the nearest transmitter.
I used to have one of those at work.
Mm. No, the reception in Shropshire is terrible. Trust me.
Yes, I used to have one of those when I worked for King Edward VII.
They were the good days.
What, the potato man?
Don't lose your head, mate.
So, if you don't get a phone signal inside of the house, so since March last year, you've been paying for a monthly phone contract for nothing.
Yeah, effectively. Yeah. Well, what do? You can't stop it, can you? You just can't stop it and start it again. So I've
Like hang out the window.
I mean, as you can imagine, a phone contract on that is pence. It's, I don't.
You're still using Starbase One, aren't you, Pete? with your modem, what was it 8 bits or whatever it was?
Dial in.
Don't they pay you to keep the phone?
Hey,
Don't they pay you to keep the phone?
yeah.
British Museum is sponsoring them. BT, British Telecom.
Yeah, it should be in the British Museum.
I keep getting messages from people, on the internet, people emailing, saying, "Oh, you need to download this app and download that app." I said, "My phone don't do apps." What you mean?
If you haven't seen his house phone, it's got a handle on the side.
The old Kerry wires.
And a separate earpiece.
I'll have you know, the studio. We'll just go up to Frank. Frank's house, things out in Wisconsin. How you doing?
Well, hello guys. How are you doing? Long time no see.
Nice to see you again, Frank.
Frank.
Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Beating off, for a while it was just dealing with all those proto molecules. Now I got the belters revolting over here, so I don't know what we're gonna do next.
So have you been doing much on SLU recently, Frank?
Not too much. Tenerife Island it's just been snowed in up there and stuff like that. It's been the worst. I mean, every year it goes through a little bit of a period during the transition, but it's been weeks of stuff there. So I've been doing some stuff in the Canaries, not a lot, trying to find some of the really kind of old shells of planetary nebulas. They're really kind of dull. The pictures aren't very impressive, but just seeing if I can find them and stuff like that. So a little bit of that. But other than that, dealing with our changes here.
Mm.
Yes.
I guess we just couldn't have you guys having all of the worldwide news there for a couple of days. We just had to do something to step all over that. So
Yeah, that was going a bit far though, Frank. Let's be honest.
What me and Sib have been doing, we haven't been watching shows on telly. We've just been tuned into CNN permanently because it's like a soap opera. It's hilarious.
It's
that's
brilliant.
the deal.
It was very surreal indeed.
We're going to go to another track now, and when we come back from this track, what I'm going to talk about is social media, not about things that are going on in Frank's homeland, but about how social media and how other media outlets talk about astronomical events and how they big them up. And then people email you and say, well, I didn't see anything, or that never happened, or the moon never turned blue, or that bit of cheese didn't fall off it, or whatever. You know the way they are. I get them phoning me saying, can you talk about this meteor shower? And I'll say, well, it's not going to be that impressive. No, we want you to say this. Well, I'll say, I'm not going to say it. So we'll talk about that after this track. And this is Dream Theater, and I think it's Our New World.
Simon showing off his data.
Yeah,
very impressive.
We're
still here.
Yeah, we're still all here. Right, Frank's still with us. He hasn't been. There's no coup gone on in Frank's house at the moment, so he's still with us.
Filters are at the door, but I got them held off for the moment.
Keep them out. So you're talking about, obviously, things that are going on over in the USA. It's not funny. I mean, we do joke about it, but it isn't funny. And I think one of the things is that social media does hype things up a little and takes things out of all proportion, and that kind of perpetuates sometimes fake news and fake ideas. And what I'm going to ask is, things like, the terminology, we mentioned this about all the different moons, the blue moon, the pink moon, the in conjunction with its backside moon, all the usual stuff they go on about. When they say they're going to have a meteor shower and saying, going outside, watch the meteor shower, there's going to be thousands of meteors and the sky is going to be lit up, and people go out and see one in about 4 hours. And then they say, well, you told us this was good, it's in the news, why didn't it happen? So is it a good thing or a bad thing that they hype these events up to the level that they hype these events up? And I'll start with Mick.
Well, my take on it, Pete, is just announce that it might happen and you might see it. I think that'd be a better approach rather than, as you've just said, the media as well as the news outlets, they do hype it up too much and people get overexcited about it. And then on the other side of it, it's a big come down when it's like, oh, I didn't see any. I mean, to be honest, I live in Milton Keynes. We're Bortle 4.5, and I don't think I've actually seen one meteor shower over our area I've lived here 20 years. May well see the few more in dark sky areas, but in city centres, I don't think a lot of people have had much experience in seeing them, to be honest. And a lot of that is down to the media hype. So, yeah, I say cool it down a bit, media.
Yeah. I mean, of course, we had the conjunction coming up, and there was a bit, they phoned me up and asked me to do a little bit on BBC Radio Shropshire, which I did on the conjunction on this show. But then the local papers were phoning me up saying, will you do a bit about it? And I gave them all the information. And when it actually went into the paper, it was completely rewritten. And one of the stories had that this conjunction would happen high in the sky on Christmas Eve, and it would be the Christmas star, and everybody needs to go out and look at it. And at the end of it, it's got my name. And you
complained.
I complained a lot, but it's no point in complaining, is it? It's gone then, it's done.
Yeah,
that's the problem. And a lot of people were emailing me and saying, well, why didn't this happen? And I didn't see it. And luckily enough, most of the nights were clouded anyway. But and I just tried to explain to people that it was low down. It wasn't going to be that spectacular. To astronomers, it was a special event because we knew how to observe it and what to do. But to the general public, it wasn't going to be a big star in the sky with lots of kings coming after it and stuff. And that. So, Dave, what's your take on it?
Mr. Eagle first, because I think Mr. Eagle's going to be leaving soon.
Yeah, I'm going to leave soon. Yeah, well, I had to go to a little recreation park not far from here to observe it, and the view through the 10-inch Dobbo was wonderful, seeing Jupiter and Saturn in the same field of view and get some wide-angle views. It was really, really nice. I had a couple of people passing by who wanted to know what I was talking about. And at that time, I had my mobile phone on the telescope, so they could sort of stand back and I could show them Jupiter and Saturn on the mobile phone screen with them standing well away from it. So that was really nice, and they were really interested. So, did a little bit of outreach, you see.
Yeah.
Even in these COVID times.
COVID friendly.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to see it, but of course I couldn't get any really good webcam images because you know, I couldn't take all my gear and my drive and mount and everything with me to do it. But that's fine. I saw it through the eyepiece and got some quick pictures, which was pleasing for me. It's good.
Excellent.
At least you got out to see it, Dave.
Yeah.
No, it was. I mean, Frank and Daz will bear this one out because they're both SLU ambassadors. That we did a thing for Kiel on here where we were going to try and view it live from Kiel, and of course, obviously, it was cloudy on that day, and so we looked onto SLU, and we're going to sort of broadcast what was going on SLU so you could see it live, and the servers crashed. So many people were trying to do it, you couldn't get on. It just crashed. But I think, you know, from my perspective, I think in a way when people sort of talk about these events, I think they should talk about events, but I think they should be realistic about it and not, you know, let the general public think that they're going to see ridiculously bright events or the one event that was in the Shropshire Star a while back is, you know, the moon is going to be as near Mars, and you will see the moon as well as you can see Mars. What they were saying is, you know, Mars is going to be bright and the moon's going to be bright, but you will see both. But people interpret that it was not as going to be as bright, but it was going to be as big. And then people were sending photographs into the Shropshire Star of the moon low down on the horizon, so it looked a little bit red, and saying they photographed Mars. Yeah. And then when you tell them they won't have it, you know. And this is the problem, you know. It's how they write these things. They write it in such a way that if you don't understand what you're looking at, you'll misinterpret it. How do you feel about it, John? What do you feel? Do you think the media should be more honest about it?
Yeah, I think probably more matter of fact, and I think probably they don't know the details. I mean, when you talk about the meteor showers, I mean, the best time to see them really is sort of after midnight, isn't it?
Yeah.
When the world rotates round and you've got the meteors coming in. But I've got some inquisitive neighbours, and when things happen, like they talk about Mars or the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, they always come asking or sending me emails, and my house faces south, so I often take the telescope out onto the front lawn, and we have a lot of dog walkers that walk past, and they're always inquisitive. And as soon as I can point out to them, like, you know, that's Mars up there, and over to the right we've got, you know, Jupiter and Saturn, and the next thing I know, they've dashed home, taken the dogs home, and they brought the children round. So like Dave was talking early on, we finish up doing a lot of outreach with all my local neighbours or people walking past. So yeah, I find it very interesting and quite rewarding to be able to help people. I mean, I remember when I was, I don't know, 12 at school, secondary school, and I can remember saying to my teacher, "I'm interested in space, sir. What's up there?" And his answer was, "Nothing, just a vacuum." And that sort of stuck in my head ever since.
Yeah.
And I've really got into astronomy since I've just before retirement age, and a lot of it now is really through the Zoom, like Dave's Virtual Astronomy Club, and Northampton have held a session tonight, and Neen Astro and things like that. So we're trying to get the message over to people, and I suppose they need to speak about reality of what's happening now.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'll put this one to Dave Galvin. Dave, you know, you obviously when we're allowed to meet at these places, you do a lot of work up at Pexhill Observatory in Runcorn, or it is in Runcorn, isn't it?
It's actually on the Liverpool side of the Mersey. It's basically it's Widnes. It's not far from Runcorn. That's on the other side of the river.
The only thing I know about Widnes is many years ago, I used to go over the bridges, a factory there that makes glue out of animal bones, and it stunk.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, do you think maybe and Simon probably bring Simon into this one as well. That when we're doing outreach at these places, like Simon does the stuff down at Bath and Dave up with the Liverpool Society, maybe invite some of these journalists from these newspapers along to sessions so they can actually see what goes on, rather than just kind of get this idea in the head of what's going on, and they don't really know. Because I mean, they're not most of these local newspapers, they're not scientists, they're not science journalists, they're just journalists who cover nearly every story that is available. You know, they might be covering I don't know, somebody's flower arranging one day and the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn the next. Is it worth maybe offering invites to these newspapers?
Yeah.
To
I think you get those very rare moments, but like the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, very rare conjunctions where you occasionally get somebody on the media who's actually interested in astronomy and knows the difference between astronomy and that other thing that sounds like astronomy but isn't, which I don't want to mention that word. So the most embarrassing thing I find is when you are misquoted. You've been victim of this, Peter, I know, on occasions, when you say quite clearly of an event that's happening and you are the Liverpool Astronomical Society and it gets written as the Liverpool Astrological Society. That is so infuriating. It really is. We had a situation in Merseyside, Jeremiah Horrocks, which many of you know as the guy that back in 1600 or wherever it was predicted the transit of Venus, celebrated in Liverpool because he was from Merseyside, and there was basically a floral display set out in his local vicinity where he was from, and they had that down as astrological. And we had to then inform them, you've actually got this wrong. I think they did correct it. I hope they did, but it's just doing basic homework. So when it comes to doing astronomy for outreach, we are very specific and clearly, with what we say, we try to be as clear and straight as possible so that the facts cannot be distorted. But 9 times out of 10, when you go with this, so with media, once it's in print, it's never correct. And it's a shame, because all the good intention is there from the guy that takes the notes. But when it gets taken back to an office and typed up, it comes out wrong. It's too late then. It's out there. So people think we have misquoted. We've actually said things wrong, where it's not. We've been misinterpreted. Yeah, it's been written down wrong. That's the problem piece. So I know social media can be, I always say social media is a great tool, but it's also a terrible weapon as well. It's an awful weapon to have in your own hands, as we have all seen recently. But with social media, you will get these, the moon is going to be as large as Mars will be, and you'll be able to see 800 meteors over your head in an hour. And we all know that is ridiculous. You're just not going to see that. So this is where we, as astronomical groups, clubs, societies, or independent, amateur astronomers, we can educate the public, but we've got to get out there so the public know we're there. Otherwise, they latch onto their own groups.
Yeah.
And by doing what we're doing here, by doing the SLU, by doing the Astro Media, all the cloud magnets, everything, it's putting out correct information and educating. Not patronizing, because that's the worst thing. Sometimes I see on these Facebook and Twitter things, people can be so nasty, and whilst they think they're being amusing, it comes across as very off-putting. And somebody who's just come into astronomy will go, right, okay, I think I'll go elsewhere or not bother, because all these astronomy intelligent people basically just want to make a fool of you. And I find that very sad. We educate. We promote our hobby, our science, our hobby, and we do the outreach that we do to not make anything from it, not to get badges for ourselves, but to expand the hobby and get younger people, new people into the subject.
I think the problem is with social media that there's been a change in the way that information is disseminated. Years ago, you would read something and it would get a reputation and be passed around because of its factual content and how good the writing was and all the rest of it. These days, if you get 50 people or 100 people or 1,000 or however many it is who like an article on Facebook, it automatically gets promoted to more people, regardless of whether it's factual or not. And this is, this is not just astronomy. This is the battle about facts in general. that when you have a news system that's based on popularity rather than on content and quality, getting correct information out there is incredibly difficult, because people want sensationalism. They want a 2-minute fix before they move on to the next thing. And you know, you can say, okay, there's going to be the Perseid, the peak of the Perseids tonight, and you may see 60 meters an hour in a dark site if you're lucky. But if you come out with an article that says, oh, you'll see 1,000 meters overhead tonight, and people say, oh, that sounds good. They don't read the article to start off with. They just see the headline. They like it. It gets passed around as fact. So this is what we're up against, all of us as astronomers. And when we do point out the inaccuracies, oh, that's boring. Oh, that's really boring. And, you know, a lot of it isn't exciting. It excites us, but we've got to realize that, you know, a lot of people just do not get excited by mundane things in astronomy. And the rare events like the conjunction and things like this, they're very few and far between that we can actually get people excited about. So we just have to keep plugging away.
Of course, Andy. So the other side of the social media arguments is, whilst they may say it's the howling wolf moon, go out there tonight, it's a blood red moon. We know it's not going to be blood red, but it may be slightly orange on that, as that full moon rises. It's still impressive, and it gets people out there looking at the sky and asking another question. The reason we have got this thing about all these full moons, I mean, I hate the term super moon. You know, I just really detest that word, super moon. You know, the moon is super, whatever the time of the year, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be perigee, apogee, or whatever. But I remember back when spaceweather.com first started out, we're talking a good couple of years ago now, they used to have, because the Native American folklore, they would tell you what the moon was, what full moon it was. So every full moon you would have, you know, it'd be the wolf moon, it'd be the monsoon moon, or whatever moon it would be. So that's where all that originally stemmed from. But now it's become this big thing where every month it's the rabbit moon, it's the whatever moon, you know. But it does get people asking questions. It gets people looking up. As for the meteors, 800 an hour, yeah, people come to us and they say, well, I didn't even see one. Well, it was cloudy last night. Do what Simon's do and get into the radio monitoring of meteors, and you'll get 800 an hour in the daytime. You know,
so Simon with his Twin Peaks. Yeah,
that's it. So I know. I mean, myself and my son Mark have done this over the years, and I find it fascinating. I know Peter's not really into it. Simon's doing this. Mary's doing this. Mary McIntyre, Tracy, and Jonathan. They're doing this work out in North Wales. So there's quite a growing band of people who are doing radio meteor work now, or radar detection of meteors. So it's growing and growing, and it's becoming popular. Only 5 years ago, it wasn't deemed accurate enough. The counts that were getting recorded weren't considered accurate enough. I went to Leicester, myself and Mark went to Leicester, a daytime lecture on the feasibilities of observing meteors by using the Graves radar receiver. And it was well organized, it was well attended, but the general feel was it's not accepted by the associations out there and the big societies as science. But I think that's changed, certainly in the last couple of years. It's now becoming big, it's becoming popular. It's also becoming now more expandable in the fact that people are taking time to expand on the computer side of things and analyzing the data. And it definitely is working. I mean, you can see the peaks, as Simon said earlier, there was a double peak of this meteor shower in January, the quadrantids. And that was a little known meteor shower 10 years ago. And now it's rediscovered. That's what it is. My own society was involved in this. We talked about this last week. My own society rediscovered this as part of the meteor work we were doing back in the 70s. And it's now become a regular January event. It's back on the calendar again. So yeah, social media, it's got its good side, it's got its bad side, but it does get people looking up at the sky. But we do get a little bit upset and irritated by some of the mistakes that made.
Yeah, it's all
up to us to politely correct it and educate.
Yeah, it's all to do with sensationalism, and it sets people up for a fall. That's the trouble. I mean, when they use images from the Hubble, and things like that, and people are expecting to see all these glorious colours or all these big events and things like that. It's sort of like a misinterpretation. They're not going to see that through the smaller telescopes or binoculars and things like that, and it just sets them up for a disappointment. And like you say, you need to get to something to hook people, to get them looking up, but to be honest with them. We appreciate the meteorites and things like that because we know what caused them, what's happening, what's going on. And of course, if they say, like you say, they're going to have 800 in an hour and they don't get it, they're going to say, I'm not going to listen to them again, because they're all full of wind, which most of us are at our age. But
true. But the problem, Daz, is when you try and explain why they don't see 800 in that hour, because all you buy the journals, you look at the meteor societies, the observation societies, and it says the zenith hourly rate, the ZHR, will be 150 or 800 for the Perseids, and we never see that amount because it's a calculation. If you had the radiance of the meteor shower directly over your head at the zenith or the zenith, depending on how we pronounce it, and you have total clear skies, hypothetically, you should be able to detect somewhere in the region of 800 meteors of bright to faint magnitude, 6 magnitude naked eye. But we don't get the radiance at the zenith. We don't get the clear skies all the time. We don't see down to 6 magnitude. So we only see, certainly in the UK, certainly in my area, I think we're Bortle 5, 6. You're not going to get them 5. Those very faint meteors. Sorry,
we've
Peter.
had nasty letters sent to our local club because how dare we schedule this event when there's a Chicago Bear Green Bay Packer game, and they were absolutely serious. This wasn't funny at all. How would we consider doing this at this particular?
Yeah, this happens with total eclipses as well.
That is inconsiderate.
Mr. Ballantyne, I think there's something to say there.
What do you want to say, Peter?
It's the things like promotional things like BBC Sky at Night that made it very popular, and things like LAS do for children, and it's getting socially involved with kids and getting children involved that's made it so popular.
Yeah, that's the outreach, isn't it?
Kath's just joined us, so hi, Kath. Good evening.
Evening, everyone.
Hi, Kath.
What we're talking about, Kath, is the way that media, social media and media in general, bigs up astronomical events, but get the facts wrong. And what we're saying is, how do we feel about it? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? And it's a mixed and intertwined thing, really.
It is a double-edged sword, isn't it, really? Because it gets people interested, but like from what I've picked up, you're already saying, but it does also increase people's expectations of what they're going to say. My neighbours, they often see me outside with a telescope, or if I'm outside observing, and they've asked me about meteor showers and things in the past, and I'm like, please don't believe everything that you see in the press. Yes, that shower will happen, but you'll probably see 5 an hour, not 100, from this site. But the fact it's got people interested is the most important, but it is down to, I think Dave was saying, the likes of us in society is just to manage expectations, really, and just make sure that the public don't feel disappointed or cheated by what they see.
Yeah. Well, Kath, you're part of SPA, aren't you? The Society for Popular Astronomy. So with SPA, you have an age group from basically young children right through to senior age groups, but they can be beginners. If they're 70 years old, they can still be a beginner in astronomy. They can be a beginner when they're 8 years old. So the support that you get from the SPA group is great. You can be after the most simplest of questions. Why is the sky blue? And there'll be somebody there to answer that question for you. Or, I need to collimate my telescope. How do I go about this? And there'll be somebody there to explain how you do all the optics.
Yes,
and that's the great thing about clubs and societies, and of course the likes of SPA.
And Solar Sphere as well.
Solar Sphere, we're a little bit biased with Solar Sphere, aren't we? But what a great event.
We are, but we're allowed to be a bit biased because Solar Sphere does amazing things to get kids involved, and the outreach work that's done there and the crafts and activities really get children.
right,
So there's always some scientific fact sheets for the children when they're doing an activity as well. So it's not just them painting something, it's about them learning as well, which is really important. So yes, yeah.
Peter, could I give a shout out for Macclesfield Astronomical Society?
No.
Okay, great. On Saturday the 16th at 1900 UT, that's Greenwich Mean Time, not Pacific Central Time or any other time, Greenwich Mean Time, 1900 hours. They are doing an online event. This is Macclesfield Astronomical Society, and it's going to be for basically beginners coming into astronomy and simple things. Do you want to start or restart in astronomy or astrophotography? Do you want to learn about space, planets, meteorites, stars, and the cosmos? Do you have a telescope, binoculars, or a camera and want to find out how to use them? Do you want advice about what equipment to buy? The short talks are going to be on. Friendly team to answer all your questions. All ages and abilities welcome. Persons under 18 must be accompanied online by a parent or guardian. And basically, you have to apply for your tickets, online tickets from, if I get this correct, Eventbrite. And if you go to Macclesfield Astronomical Society, there will be a link that will take you there, or perhaps we could put one on our Reach Out site.
We'll have
and a link
on the Astro Radio site and everywhere.
Yep. But I just want to say, societies and clubs and groups put a heck of a lot of work into doing all these events, as we know ourselves, Pete. Dave Eagle does some great stuff, and other people there. Michael Bryce doing Go Space Watch. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes. So really do need that support. Some of these events are totally free. What a great thing for the kids to and elder people to get educated on. So yeah, Macclesfield Astronomical Society, Saturday the 16th, 1900 UT.
I'll have a word with them, see if they want me to stream it on the radio as well.
That'd be great, yeah.
Out on the radio. Well, I was going to go over to Frank now. Frank, we've been talking about the social media, obviously, but I mean, with the American general media, TV and newspapers, how do they cover astronomical events, or are they pretty much the same as what happens here? Is it all kind of hyped up and blown out of all proportion?
It can be. We've actually had our observatory overwhelmed by people and disappointed people on a particular event. The transit of Mercury was a problem where we had a lot of people starting to show up. And one thing that we kind of did locally, and I mean, again, we're torn so much between wanting to not only provide outreach, but also gain membership and stuff like that. But one thing that we've done a little bit lately is on some of the more special events is actually do nothing and use that as an opportunity for our own club members. And some of these events are so rare. It's sad for us that are into this to miss out and not be able to spend some time with each other when they actually come about. So no, they're just like it's the same situation that you're talking about. And I just saw something the other day on Twitter that was kind of interesting, where somebody had done some outreach about a particular event, and they had like 6,000 views. And there were actually only 4 or 5, 6 visits to the website after all of those views. So you wonder what the return on investment is even on some of those things. But it's developing. We're going through this cycle. We're all getting used to it, and we want to provide this information to people. And there are, and it's not just click-throughs. We actually we can have sometimes with events where we can be overwhelmed at our local club with people wanting to bring out groups to our club and stuff like that, and they're looking for nights out and stuff like that. So they experimented with it a little bit, and actually what they did was they made it more of a premium event instead of just they used to just entertain anybody for for a simple donation, if anything at all. And we had a couple local companies that decided they wanted to have a premium event, and we made an evening for them, but they provided a new camera to us or something like that to do it too. It wasn't just a simple thing. So it's all changed. I personally enjoy, I think now that I look back on the times when I'm in the park, looking at something with somebody with a Dobsonian or something, and just have kids that are playing basketball all stop and come over and want to talk to you about it. That can be some of the most enjoyable times for me. So
if you went to the park with a Dobsonian and kids were playing basketball, they'll come over and nick the telescope.
There you go. That could happen. You got to be concerned.
So, Andy, I mean, you're in Spain. How do the Spanish media look at this sort of stuff?
I think we have pretty much the same problems as everywhere, to be honest with you, Pete. Scientific literacy is much worse in Spain than I find it in the UK. Investment in science in Spain is appalling. It's among the worst and lowest in Europe. And there's generally not a lot of awareness about science or you know, specifically astronomy. The media are pretty sensationalist, to be honest. They just want sensation and things that will sell papers and, you know, drag people to their websites and whatever. But I do my bit. I do outreach with the local school and, you know, try to do it. But there's not the interest that you hear that you know you find in the UK. I find in the UK, you know, if you do put your telescope out where somebody can sit, they will come and chat to you, and there just doesn't seem to be the interest here. You know, not to disparage anybody at all. It's just a cultural thing, really, more than anything. But the media here is, you know, it's tabloid stuff, really. So pretty sensationalist.
I mean, it's interesting here. I mean, Tien, who lives in Japan, not just outside of Tokyo, he's emailed in and he said when he lived in South Korea for a while, he said over there they were pretty, you know, they big things up out of all proportion. He says, but actually the Japanese media tend to get things pretty spot on and pretty accurate. He says they basically say how it's going to be. And he says, as far as outreach goes in Japan, he said, if you put a telescope out on a side, as he said, sidewalk. Yeah, I mean, we don't say sidewalk here. We don't even understand that word, sidewalk.
What the hell is a sidewalk? I've never heard of it.
It's a footpath. Anyway, when we put stuff out on
where the bubbler is.
He says,
I'd just like to say one thing on social media. It's helped, like getting in contact with people like yourself and being able to have these lectures, come to these places in the coronavirus. Without social media, where would it have been?
I mean, there is good sides to it. I mean, another side I wanted to discuss, and I wanted to discuss this with Mick because he runs the UK Magnets, and that is a lot of people want to learn about aspects of astronomy, particularly astrophotography and that. And one thing that does, it might be controversial, this one, but I'm going to go down it anyway because you know me, I'll go down any road.
Obviously,
when people post a photograph and it's, let's say it's not of a particular high standard, instead of giving the person constructive criticism and trying to help them with their photography, they'll say, wow, that is amazing. Now, myself and another astrophotographer, we have occasionally posted really crap pictures on social media, and you get people saying that's unbelievable and this is unbelievable. And I think sometimes if you want to learn about something, you need, I mean, when I was learning, I needed criticism, I needed constructive advice, because I've only been doing astrophotography in a digital form for 6 years now. And when I started, I was rubbish. If I show you some of my original first images, you'd have thought I wouldn't have even posted that. But it annoys me when, you know, you see an image and you think, I want to give constructive advice there and help the person move on. But everybody's putting, that's unbelievable. Wow, I couldn't, how did you manage to do that? And it's a blurred picture and you don't even know what it is. And then when you do give constructive advice, everybody dives in on you and says, you're being horrible. How do you feel about that, Mick? Now I've took you down that road and put you on the spot.
I feel as I'm there already. See, I spend all my, as you know, Pete, I spend all my time in UK Cloud Magnets, and the only time I actually venture into other groups is maybe to post one of my images that I've managed to capture, which at this time I'm starting to forget how to process because it's been so long since I've done any imaging. But it's a bit different than that in UK Cloud Magnets.
Totally different.
I mean, we do see a lot of new members, and a lot of people who were just starting out in this, you know, this hobby, they haven't got the kit to go out and produce the fantastic images. And what we do in the Magnets is we encourage them to keep on going, because a lot of the time a new person will post a picture and they'll even say in their post that it's, you know, it's not very good and all the rest of it. And a lot of them will self-admit they've got a lot to learn. And I think that's the basic rule over the whole of astronomy. people know whether or not it's any good or not. And new starters into astronomy, they're never going to be, you know, not to Pete's standards. I mean, a lot of the newcomers haven't got too many telescopes, but yeah, in the magnets, we kind of like encourage them to keep on going. We don't tell them it's crap, because it's not, because it's...
No, you don't say crap. Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is, you know, say, if you try this, I mean, Kath's asked me questions before in the past, haven't you, Kath? You said, I've taken this picture, but how do I do this, or how can I make it better? And that, I think that's the kind of a constructive advice, not to tell somebody it's crap, like you say, encourage them to keep going, but say, have you tried this?
Yeah.
Have you tried that? And
which is what we do because
it's the most helpful thing. It is, because somebody, Nikki in UK Cloud Magnets, really gave me some tips, because I do photos. I've got the DOB that Pete handed down to me, and she gave me some great tips that have improved my focus with my moon shots. At the moment, I only do moon shots, but eventually I will move on to other astro gear, but it is useful. And for me, I still see myself as a complete beginner. I can just about do a half decent moonshot, but if you looked at my photos 3 years ago, the improvement, and that's because I've had advice from Pete, from people in Cloud Magnets, and other people, and I've improved. And I would always rather somebody say, oh, do you know what, Kath, if you just tweak this and did that, it'll look better. And because I think that's really important on your journey, because I'm slowly building I put all my photos together, so in 10 years time, hopefully I'll be able to show that I've gone from a fuzzy moon blob to something, you know, maybe.
And you couldn't have had a better teacher, really, because Vicky Pink in UK Cloud Magnets, she is known as Mrs. Moon.
She is, yeah. And Nikki as well, Nikki Barrett, she gave me some really, because Vicky put me in touch with Nikki. Vicky and Nikki, it's all sounds, because she said you've got the same sort of scope as Nikki, so she'll give you some other great pointers, and that's just a kind of great astro family.
Do they know Ricky?
I haven't met Ricky yet.
And Dickie and
but that is the beauty of it, and I think I would always say, I'd rather somebody say, well, try this, Kath, that'll make it a bit better. And
one point I always put over to new members when they're posting new images is, it's your image. It might be your first ever image of a deep space object, or the moon, or whatever it is they've been taken an image of, and that should be something that person, that individual, should be really, really proud of, because their next door neighbor may well not have seen or even able to take a picture of Orion or Andromeda or even the moon. All they get is they look out and the moon's up, and it's like, oh yeah, there's the moon, and they wander back in again. But everybody who posts their very first or even second or 100th image, if it's not up to the standard of, you know, somebody who's been doing it, you know, 10, 15 years or what have you, they should still be proud, and they do receive a lot of praise. And as Pete said, we try and like guide them and say, well, try this, try that, and try this software and try that different process and what have you. But I always say to somebody who's just posted a group, be proud of it, because that is your very first image. And in 5 years' time, as Kath, you just said, you're going to amalgamate all of your images. And when you look back and look at your first image to your one you took last week or last month, then you can see the difference. But the first image, you should always be proud of. Always.
Absolutely.
I've still, Mick, I still have my very first image I took of the moon. A friend of the family had loaned me a Praktica TTL SLR then, wasn't it? Wasn't a DSLR, single lens reflex camera. And I held it to the eyepiece of my binoculars and took a photograph. Now, it was only a little tiny image of the moon, but nevertheless, it was my first image. It's slightly blurred, but I could see the Mary. I could work out the Sea of Tranquility and the Sea of Crises. And bear in mind, we would just go into the moon in them days, so I actually knew where the Apollo astronauts were going to land and so on. This I took with the same camera was through a telescope at the eyepiece. So what people do now with a mobile phone and get really good images because they can instantly see what they're getting. I took mine using the same method with the lens, the focal methods, and then waited a week till I got the negatives back and the prints. And there's this moon, and I could see the crater Tycho, and I could see the Maria, just a slight limb detail as well. And they're not the best images, but they're my images, and they're my very first images. I've gone from that level to now where I can take a photograph of the Alpine Valley and get the rill with its craters in the middle of that rill.
Yes.
And that image does it for me as much as my first pictures did back in them days.
Well, funnily enough, Dave,
sorry, Andy. I'm just going to say, Andy, the thing I'd always say is anybody takes any images at all, don't throw them away, because in 2 years' time, you actually learn how to process them. And what you actually had on the screen, which was just a black screen, has got detail in there. And you might take your Andromeda Galaxy or your Orion Nebula, because they're the bright ones, aren't they? They're the ones that most beginners go for. But they come out of this little fuzz and they consign them to the bin. But there's actually detail in there. And when you learn how to stretch with the histogram or curves, you bring out the detail. And your first little blobby image has actually got detail.
Yeah.
So sorry, please. Sorry, Andy. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, Dave, my first image I ever took of the moon was with a Tasco, a 4.5-inch reflector, and my trusty old Zenit E SLR. Just by pointing
Zenit E, remember them well.
Yeah, made out of bits of old tanks. They were fantastic cameras. And
I dropped mine a couple of times.
Just by pointing it down the eyepiece tube, and I was, as you say, you have to wait for it to come back from the chemist after it's been developed. You didn't know whether you got anything or not, and absolutely stunned that I got a half full moon with a lovely line of craters down the Terminator. And I've still got that photo, and I'm never going to part with it because, as you say, it's my first one, and it encouraged me to go on and do more because I'd proved the technique works and I could actually do it. So so it's very important.
Yeah, when you
sorry, Peter Ballantyne, you were going to say something before.
I found your society, LAS, very encouraging with everything to do with astronomy. If anybody's taken up astronomy, you ought to drop. And that other one that you recommended, I think.
The SPA, Society for Popular Astronomy.
Yeah.
That's right, excellence, yeah.
Yeah, you've been very good encouraging people. And that's what encourages people. I don't know the difference between the moon and a star, but you're
right, okay.
You're teaching me.
Okay. Well, when our questions come in, one of the questions might just be, what is the difference between the moon and the star? And then we'll discuss that and answer that question just by coincidence.
Yeah.
It might be just written here.
Well, what you need to do is a lot of people, and I've been telling them to listen to your radio station, Pete.
Good man.
Nice words.
Loads of people.
That's true, Andy.
They're nowhere near got the knowledge of you people. And it would be a fantastic program. They're just starting out to ask you the questions for your.
That's what we're here for. We all started
talking about questions.
We're deemed experts now, but we're learners still.
Talking about questions, we'll go to another track and then we'll come back with some questions. Dave's got some questions there. But a message in from Jill in Dublin. She said, you would have found it, Dave. She's getting brave now. She says you would have found it a lot easier to take the photograph as you did through your eyepiece because the moon was a lot closer in your day.
Ouch. Yeah, what is it? About 2 centimeters a year or something. Ouch. Right, Dublin, I'm coming over there as soon as this lockdown's over.
I think I've got a nap on my phone.
The stars were much brighter then as well.
And faster.
Sorry, Peter.
I've got an app on my phone.
In the way of questions tonight.
Is there intelligent life in Dublin?
No.
No, obviously not. So straight on to the next question. So this is from Peter in St. Helens. And the question is, what is the difference between the sun and the moon?
In what respect?
Well, what is the sun and the moon made of the same thing, the same
No,
material?
No.
Are they the
the
same?
sun's a
No.
star.
No.
Unfortunately, Peter's not in the room at the moment, so maybe
Yeah.
we should wait till he comes back to that
Have a
one.
look to see if you can see it.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that one in a moment.
You'll come back to that one in a moment, so we can answer his question for him. Next
Okay.
one.
Okay. Why can't we see all those faint stars at night time? We keep getting planetarium software, and it says, you know, here's this constellation. You see lots and lots of stars on your planetarium software, but when you go out there in the night sky, you can only see 4 or 5 stars of the Polaris of Orion. So where's all those faint stars going? Why can't we see them?
Depends where you are.
Yeah.
It depends where you are
Okay,
and
Andy, yeah.
how much of a moon is in the sky. Yes,
Light
those stars are there, of course. It's just you need to be in a dark sky site. You need to be well away from street lights, architectural lighting, any sort of light, house lights, whatever. And you need to be away from roads as well, because roads reflect a fair lot of light up into the sky. You need to basically be in a dark sky site. You also need to be outside for your eyes, long enough for your eyes to adjust to the darkness, which the average person will take maybe 15, maybe 20 minutes for your pupils to open to their full extent, so that you are grabbing all the light that is coming in your direction. Obviously, if you're looking for faint stars, you need to go out on a night when there's no moon or a new moon. So all of these are factors. You need to have a transparent, clear sky. So this time of year is, of course, ideal for astronomy, even though it means standing out in the freezing cold, freezing your nudges off for hours. But these are all factors that will prevent you seeing the fainter stars. But in my experience, a lot of people will go outside, immediately look up and say, oh, I can't see the faint stars. You must, even if you're in a dark sky site, you must allow time for your eyes to adjust to total darkness, because that otherwise you just won't see them.
So it doesn't matter whether you're in a city area or a rural area.
No.
Dark adaptation is key. You've got to be out there long enough, let your pupil open up to the best that it can. Try and shield yourself from bright lights.
Yes, and if you need to use
averted
light,
vision.
Yeah, absolutely. If you need to use lights, make sure it's a red light, because red light is of sufficiently long wavelength that it doesn't destroy your night vision.
Yeah,
so you need to go out with a torch. You know, I live next to a forest, 2 minutes from, and I'm in the forest. I go out there at night, but I take a red light with me, because if I use a white light or a yellow light to illuminate the way I'm going, so I don't fall over and break my leg yet again, then you know, I take a red light. Red lights are dimmer, of course, but you know, anything other than red light destroys the adaptation your eyes have made for the darkness. So red lights, dark sky sites, allow time for your eyes to adapt. No moon and no cloud, and that's basically it.
Yeah, but it's interesting you said, you know, although your sky might be bright because you're in a city area or the full moon is out, it will drown out all the faint starlight. The Milky Way won't be seen, but it is literally still there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You've probably seen eclipses yourself, Andy. Total eclipses of the sun, amazing sights. But when that totality takes place, when you get 100% totality, not 99.8 or 9, 100% totality, and the sky goes dark, and you go, as I said many times, you get that twilight sunset all around. The stars come out.
The amazing thing about that, it's a gradual process during the eclipse, and the first thing that you notice, I thought this, and some of the people I was with thought this, it's as if the color is draining out of the landscape, and it's becoming sort of monotone, you know. And that's the first sign. It is, and then slowly it's amazing. I remember being in Falmouth for the 1999 total eclipse, and the minute totality hit, all the seabirds went absolutely bananas up to totality. I mean, they were going mad as it got dark. They didn't know what the hell was going on. The minute totality hit, they all shut up, as if to say, "Oh, it's only an eclipse. What the hell?"
Let's have a little sleep. It's nighttime.
Yeah, but it's an amazing sight. But yeah,
it is. So I think go slightly off tangent here, but 2024 we got this series of eclipses, total eclipse across America. Frank, we're all coming to visit you, mate. Hopefully you're on that line of totality.
Yeah, can you book us in somewhere, Frank? Oh, we'll come and stay in your
I
house.
think we're going to need a bigger house, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the planets start coming out, the bright stars come out. So if you happen to be, depending on the time of the year, of course, you might have the winter sky, which is there in the daytime, but the sun's in the way, and you can't see the stars in the daytime. But totality takes place. You see Sirius, you see the constellation of Orion, and then you also see the planets, Mars, Jupiter, Venus, depending on where they are in the sky, of course. So that's great. So the other thing being is stars are there in the daytime throughout the year, regardless of the month. And my own observatory, Liverpool AS, we often would look at the stars in the daytime. And in the winter time, you got to think in the winter time, the sun is low down in Sagittarius and Scorpius, but the summer constellations are there in the daytime. And it's the opposite then, isn't it, for the summer?
Yes.
The sun's high up in the constellations, in the winter constellations, obviously, yeah. But when you know where to point the telescope, if you've got an accurate telescope set up and you know how to use it safely, because you've got to be careful with the sun out, you've got to be so careful, you can actually find the stars in the daytime if you know exactly where to look and you've got your telescope perfectly polar lines. So to see the stars in the daytime is an amazing experience that I love. I just love doing that. The planets are much easier, Venus, Jupiter, and so on.
But can I also just say, Dave, what it occurs to me, a good test for whether you've actually got a clear night, whether you are likely to see any of the faint stars, is to look at the Pleiades star cluster, which is also a test of your vision, because it is said that if you've got good eyes and you've got a really clear dark night, you should be able to see all 7 of the stars in the Pleiades.
So acute vision, you should be able to.
Yeah, that's right.
So how many on a good night? How many of the Pleiades can you see?
Me, I can only see. I've only ever been able to see 6, but my eyes they've been very good.
So
my daughter the other night, I was doing this with my 9-year-old daughter the other night. She swore she could see 9.
Right. Yeah.
She is a bit of a show off. So who knows?
One of the things to bear in mind is that people's eyes are different, but also that you're not the first person to be looking up. And if you take part in the star count that happens every year, organised by the CPRE, this year's between the 6th and the 14th of February, they get you to count the stars in Orion. And you can also look back at last year. So you can look in your area to see how many stars people counted in Orion in your area. And so you can actually find out if you're perhaps doing it wrong, as it were, or whether you've got good eyesight, or but you can do a really good comparison. But it also, that survey helps us work out how bad the light pollution's getting, because year on year that survey shows that light pollution's getting worse and worse and worse, and people are seeing fewer and fewer stars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what let's have a quick consensus. I think I see about 5, maybe 6. My eyesight's not as good as it used to be. So the Pleiades, maybe 6 on a clear night.
Yeah, I would say 6.
Yeah. What about you, Daz?
6.
Mick?
I'm going to go with a smudge.
Smudge of blood. Okay, Peter. Peter Ballantyne. Something to learn. About 5. Okay. Okay, Kath.
6 for me.
6.
I can see 6 quite clearly.
Yeah, I'm thinking 6 for me. And my wife was down a few less, and we were so concerned about it. We took her to the eye doctor, found out she had cataracts. Now she can see a 6 again too, I think.
Wow.
Oh, fantastic.
So for our age group, which is of the slightly middle-aged and a bit, being polite, we can see about 6 on average, I think, which is not bad. So for people who are younger or have got more acute vision, 7 is not unrealistic. 8 is probably the normal. 9 would be exceptional. I remember a story from the Liverpool AS going back probably to the 80s. If Ron Kelly was here, he would remind me more detail. One of our members, Eric Jones, his mother, bear in mind she was probably about 50, 60 at that time, she actually looked at Jupiter with her naked eye and asked him, what's the 3 little stars to the right-hand side of it?
Blimey.
And he went, what do you mean, the 3 little stars? And she said, well, there's 3 little tiny stars very close to Jupiter there. Can you not see them? He couldn't see them. He got his binoculars and he could see the Galilean satellites, and there were 3 to one side. I can't remember the exact configuration, but it was 2 and it was 1, or it was 3 to one side and 1 to the other. But when he checked up the positions of the Jovian satellites, she was absolutely right. And she must have had exceptional eyesight to see that, because if you could turn Jupiter off, and obviously the satellites of Jupiter are illuminated by the sun quite a distance away, as you imagine. If you could turn Jupiter off to remove that glare, in theory, you should be able to see the Jovian satellites, but they'd be about fifth, sixth magnitude, maybe.
Yeah.
So it is possible that she did see them. They'd have to be at a great elongation from the disk. But it was the very fact that he checked it. Now this guy Eric. He would predict the total eclipses for us. He would tell us where we had to go on the track before the days of all the computers being in your hand on the mobile phone. He would calculate them all, plot them out on the Ordnance Survey maps of the world, and tell us where we needed to be. That's how accurate he was. So when he did the calculations, I believe him. So that was an exceptional moment, I think. So yes,
there is an interesting
daytime,
there is an interesting YouTube a video called "The Blind Astronomer of Nova Scotia." He happens to have a serious problem. He's legally blind during the day, but he does astronomy at night and can see things like that you and I just can't see because of his particular malady that it has. It makes him a super night vision person, but the brightness of anything in the daytime completely washes out his vision completely.
What an amazing story.
Have you ever thought to yourself what it'd be like to see in a different wavelength? Maybe on one clear night of a year, just for 24 hours, you have this different perception of vision. We think of insects, bees, butterflies, they can see in UV. So ultraviolet light, certain flowers will stand out and they can home in on a particular plant for the pollen and so on. Bats use obviously a sonar technique. If we could see in hydrogen alpha, just for one moment, or see in the spectrum of X-rays, what would the night sky look like? I saw images today of the constellation of Orion, and you've got the Barnard Loop, which is I think it's a supernova remnant, and it's absolutely huge. It's wider than the constellation of Orion. You've got this huge gas cloud of hydrogen above the head of the Orion, where this club or his bow and arrow is. At the same time, you've got the Orion Nebula and all the H alpha detail there. Wouldn't it be amazing just to see in a different wavelength for a moment and just see what the sky looks like? Yeah. But we can't do that. We have to make do with what we've got, look after what we've got. Okay, so I just want to go back to that first question. Peter from St. Helens has asked us, what is the difference between the sun and the moon? Well, obviously, one's a gaseous body and one's a solid body. One reflects light and the other emits light. One is a consequence of the other, because we can see the moon because of the sunlight traveling 93 million miles and illuminating it. So how would you define what a sun is, i.e. a star, and what a moon is, such as our moon?
Well, a star is a huge ball of plasma, in which thermonuclear fusion is occurring under the immense temperature and pressure at the center, which converts hydrogen to helium, releasing radiation right across the electromagnetic spectrum as a byproduct of that, as well as heat, of course, and everything else, and the light that we see on the Earth. The moon is a lump of rock, basically. It doesn't have any, it doesn't emit any radiation of its own. It's just a dead lump of rock. The difference in scale is important. Of course, the moon is, what's the diameter of the moon in kilometers? I can't even remember this. It's small. And the sun is very, very big. The sun is nearly 1 million miles across, 865,000 miles across. But there's an interesting astronomical coincidence that the moon, in terms of diameter, is 1/400th the diameter of the sun. But the sun is 400 times further away. So when we have a total eclipse, the moon and the sun are virtually the same size, which enables the moon to pass across the face of the sun and completely cover it, which it won't do in a few million years, of course, because as we know from our conversation,
Dublin correspondent says the moon is moving further away.
The moon is moving further away, and
I've noticed that. Yeah,
I know you have. You must have seen all this. It must have been amazing to see, Dave.
It is amazing. Yes.
As a consequence, the moon won't fully cover the face of the sun, and we'll have at best what are called annular eclipses,
Yeah,
from
yeah.
the word for ring. So you'll see a ring of light around the moon, which is the sun in 400 times further away. But the sun and the moon are basically two very, very different animals.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was talking about the moon. My friend had been out with his daughter looking at the constellation of Orion, and he noticed that the little grey cloud was there, and he said it was lovely through his telescope. His daughter's just getting into astronomy, and I explained to him that at the moment we're approaching new moon, so we won't have the moon in the night sky. So that's obviously better for looking at the faint stars and the nebulas. So what I've explained to him is that at the moment the moon would be not visible because it's more or less in line with the sun. But over the next couple of days, we're going to get that beautiful thin crescent as the angle slightly changes. So the sun will be illuminating from that slight angle, giving us the lovely crescent. But we'll also get the earth shine, or what they used to call the old moon in the new moon's arms. And I was explaining to him that the sun is from the earth 93 million miles away. So it takes 8 minutes for the sunlight to hit the moon at that little angle to illuminate the crescent. It reflects 250,000 miles to the earth where we view it. And then because of the surface of the earth, I think the earth is 2 degrees from the moon. The earth would be 2 degrees, i.e. 4 moon diameters in space. So it's like a huge mirror reflecting the sunlight back in from the earth, 250,000 miles again, illuminating the unilluminated side of the moon, and therefore showing us the earth shine. And even up to the half, what we call half moon or first quarter moon, we can still see the earth shine. And I always find it beautiful in a small telescope or a pair of binoculars, low power. It looks amazing. And that's what he's going to be looking for in the next couple of days if we get those clear skies. But when you think about it, 93 million miles plus 250,000 miles, bounce it back another 250,000 miles to reflect back to us another 250,000 miles, just so that we can see it. And you can say it's 8 minutes plus 1 1/4 seconds plus 1 1/4 seconds plus 1 1/4 seconds. And that's how old that sunlight is by the time we see that earth shine from the moon. I've
always thought the sight of Earth shine on the moon is something really romantic. I think it's absolutely
beautiful.
Yes, yeah. Beautiful. And I'm fortunate enough to live in quite a dark place, so we see that quite regularly. You know, in nearer towns or big towns and cities.
Of course, the other thing, Andy, is that from the UK, the ecliptic cuts at an angle, depending on the time of the year. Of course, it will cut at an angle, so the crescent moon will basically. It will fall towards the horizon at that angle. Yes, but if you go different parts of the world, you might actually have the moon, the crescent moon just drops straight down vertically. And you have that lovely crescent.
That's right.
Dropping into the over the ocean.
That on my travels, yes.
And isn't that an amazing sight to see?
It is beautiful. It is.
That's just the difference in latitude, longitude.
Yeah.
So there we go.
I noticed that on a cruise I was on. I went my honeymoon. I went on a cruise. And we went down as far as North Africa, and I noticed the difference, and it was amazing. It was so beautiful over the ocean. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah. So there we go.
Oh, sorry, my right. It wasn't the best bit of my honeymoon.
A friend of mine, Rob, he on his honeymoon, he went to the Seychelles to see, for his honeymoon. He actually went there for his honeymoon. I've got to remember that, but. He took photographs from his balcony of. I've got to remember I can't remember the year. Supernova 1987, I think it was. San Juliac 1987.
1987A in the large.
That's it.
Cloud, yes.
Yeah. Now that supernova had just taken, and he said, "I've come all this way, and it's up there in the sky, and I can see it with my naked eye. I've got to get a photograph of it." And that was on his evening of his honeymoon.
Good man.
And his wife was very supportive. Right. His wife was very supportive on that as well, I believe. So
priorities.
Okay, just quickly moving on to another question. Did Galileo invent the telescope?
No.
Galileo seems to get all the credit for being the first to have a telescope, but not necessary.
The originator of the telescope, the inventor of the telescope, is meant to be. It's all shrouded in the myth of history, a little bit, but it's meant to be a Dutch spectacle maker called Hans Lippershey. In some time around 1600, but we're not exactly sure of the date. Galileo was the first person to turn the telescope to the heavens or rather, he obviously wasn't the first person to do it, but he was the first well-known person with lots of rich connections who people listened to turn.
He also recorded it, didn't he? So he did
right.
the sketches, and that's why we remember.
But, no, I think it's safe to say he didn't invent he didn't make telescopes himself.
No, of course not.
Yeah, but he didn't actually invent it. I think Hans Lippershey goes down in history as the inventor.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, it had probably been done many times before, but nobody ever really paid much attention to it. So
he had his own radio station, astronomy radio station that had a worldwide audience. That's how.
Yeah, that's how we did.
Back in the day when Andy was a lad. But, but I think
do you mind? I wasn't a lad. I was 23 at the time.
Galileo gets the credit because he's the one who recorded the observations. Sorry, Peter.
There is a nice myth, isn't there, that Lippershey, how he invented the telescope, there was two kids playing about with spectacle lenses in his shop, and that one held one in front of the other and realized that it made things bigger. And when he patented it, it was actually patented as an object that makes things far away look bigger. And that's what the patent said. He didn't say telescope.
Imagine going into a telescope shop these days and saying, "I'd like one of those objects that makes faraway objects bigger, please."
Hey, there you go, sir. That'll do nicely.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we've got to remember also, it was actually a military instrument.
Yes.
Because it was in the day, it would have been top secret. You don't tell your enemy that you could see them from 3-4 miles away.
No, that's right.
That's it, because you got that advantage over them. You see them before they can see you. Until they get one, then you're on par, aren't you? Then, as is the way of warfare. We've got this weapon and we can do this. Well, we're going to build one as well. So therefore, we're equal. Well, we'll build a better one and a better one, and things escalate as they do. So yeah, it was probably a military weapon or a military instrument in its day, and it just happened. Someone turned it towards the heavens and said, "Oh, look at that! There's spots on the sun, and I can't see a thing now." That's it. It's okay. I've got 2 eyes. I'll use the other one. There we go.
Incidentally, Dave, in the same vein, this is how that myth about eating carrots gives you good night vision got started, wasn't it?
Go on. This has got to be a joke.
No, it's not. It's absolutely true. Because during the war, the British didn't want the Germans to know that they got radar.
Yes.
So they spread the story about the reason the pilots could apparently find German fighter planes in the dark is because they ate carrots, which gave them good night vision.
So
and that's how the whole thing.
So
got
what
started.
you're trying to tell me is my mother lied.
Yes.
Also, interesting along that vein, like you're saying, Andy, too, is that I had read, we talk about these bursts that we see now, like the event in Russia, these incoming meteors that come in and would provide these big bursts, and there would be sailors that would come in and they would talk about that they saw these out by the Seychelles, or they saw these out and everybody would deny that they saw them, and the government would deny they existed. And it's along the lines of what Dave was just saying. The government saw them also, but they did not want people to know that they could detect them, because then our enemies would know that we could detect their missile plumes that were taking place. So there is nothing that isn't used first as a weapon. Or if it's modern technology, it usually ends up in some type of a pornographic usage before it becomes worldwide, also in the form of a CD.
On that, Frank.
just moving it back onto the side of astronomy and space, of course. Just to finish on this question, I'm trying to move it forward. There we go. The film industry, Mick. What can you say? There was a time where, for a short while, it was said that there was an Englishman who invented the telescope, and I can't remember the name, but this was before Galileo. So
was it Ron Telescope?
Ron Telescope.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? There was an English guy, and they reckon he mapped the moons before Galileo did, wasn't it? That's what his name was, eh?
But it seems to have sort of like gone behind the scene, that one, hasn't it? So I don't know.
His name probably didn't rhyme in the Queen song, so Galileo.
Rewrite the lyrics.
I mean, Mr. Smith doesn't really work, does it?
Or the guy that keeps cropping up in my quizzes, Reginald Celestron.
Reggie Celestron.
His name was actually Leonard Digges.
And what year are we talking there?
We are talking, 1 second, 1571.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
So
He
Horrocks
wrote-
prior, pre-Horrocks, I guess, as well.
He wrote of the marvelous conclusions that may be performed by glasses concave and convex of circular and parabolic forms.
That sounds interesting.
He
Yeah.
was quite well spoken, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost as good as Andy there as well. Yeah.
Sorry, that's a really bad impression of him. He was actually a Scouser, but I couldn't. Obviously, I couldn't do that.
Either say it in Scouse or say it in Welsh.
Hey, calm down, calm down.
Hey. Get two pieces of glasses and you put them together. It makes things that are far away come dead close.
Magic!
Oh, dear.
Mr. Williamson has a question.
I'm just losing control of the room again. That's
Again.
okay. I'm going to go to one more track, then we'll come back for the last 5 minutes of chat and banter, and if Dave's got any more questions. This is Cream and White Room.
Oh, I like White Room.
Yeah, me too.
And, what's going to be observable in the month of January? What are we at? We're at the 11th now, are we? So we're nearly halfway through the month.
Yeah.
So new moon approaching. Is that right, Kath?
Yes, it is. We've got, this week, they're saying Thursday, there's going to be Jupiter, Mercury and Saturn are joined by the thin 2% lit moon.
Oh, so there's that crescent moon we were talking about.
Yeah.
Earth-shining.
And that's
Now,
going to be
That'd be a
4.5
nice photo.
degrees southeast of Mercury. So
yeah.
if we have clear skies, that should be a rather nice
So
sight,
we're
shouldn't
going to
it?
need a clear low horizon.
It's really close to the sun. It's about 12
Yeah.
degrees from the sun. So.
Yeah,
Oh dear, that's going to be a
it's
typical one.
very,
But-
it's very close.
But certainly the next night or two after that, you should still be able to see something.
Yes, yeah.
No, that'd be a good image and good for binoculars, low power. That'd be cool.
Yes,
But
that
so,
should be quite
anything
good.
else happening in January? Any meteor showers? We just had the
We've
quadrantids.
just
So
had the quadrantids, haven't we? I'm not sure that there's any
Nothing
other
till April
ones.
now.
I was going to say it's March or April, isn't it? The next
Mary
one,
McIntyre would recommend everyone try and see the Lunar
Lunar.
X and the Lunar V on the 20th of January.
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So
How
Yeah.
how can our listeners get a copy of that list of table for the times? Mary produces them, doesn't she? She
She
puts
does.
them out there.
Yes, it's on her various it's on her website,
Yeah.
I believe. I'm not. Let me have a look what it is.
Mary McIntyre,
Yeah, it's
Lunar
ju-
X and Lunar V.
While you're having a look there, Kath, can I just point out for the benefit of our listeners, there are regular meteor showers throughout the year, but you can see a meteor any night. You
Yes.
don't have to wait for a shower.
Mhm.
Technically, they're known as sporadic meteors. The Earth is being bombarded by dust and debris all the time. So even if you're not in the middle of a meteor shower, you can go at any dark night and see meteors. And sometimes you can see some incredibly bright ones. So, you should never be discouraged. If you've got a clear night, go out and look for some meteors.
Well, if we're getting meteors hitting the Earth every day, 24 hours a day for the full year, then the Earth must be getting heavier.
Yes,
per
it is
annum.
by several thousand tons a year or something.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
I've got a figure here of it sounds astronomical. The figure 40,000 metric tons of mass each year from space
that's
debris.
right. That's
When-
right.
It's
Because we
incredible,
tend to
isn't it?
think of
Yeah.
meteors when we see them across the sky, the shooting stars that we see, the meteors.
Mm.
They're generally just little specks of dust. Occasionally, there may be a pebble size where we see the big bright flashes.
Mm.
More rare are the larger bolides.
Yeah, but we got Elon
yeah.
Musk. He's trying to rebalance it by shooting everything back up into space, isn't he? So
But that's not adding weight. That's just taking mass from the Earth, putting it into a higher orbit to bring it back down again.
Yeah,
So that can't be added. Yeah.
Maybe our friend from Japan has seen the news about
Okay.
the Japanese say they're going to build some satellites out of wood.
Okay, Frank, we're going over to Peter.
Oh, it's all right. Frank can carry on. We've got 1 minute left, folks.
I apologise.
Yeah.
We got that and we got that.
The Japanese were saying they were going to build some satellites out of wood now,
Yeah.
frames, so they completely burn up on re-entry and we don't have as much stuff coming down, but it's still gaseous, so it's interesting.
Interesting.
Okay.
though.
Interesting.
I'm
smell
interested in
of the
hearing
mists
Pete at
coming.
the end what your friend with the from Japan with the telescope on the sidewalk was doing.
Mm.
He still can't hear us now.
Well,
I think this is Tian, isn't it?
Tien in Japan will join in on the next show, Tien. Send us some emails. Anyway, I want to thank you all in the panel tonight for joining us here on Reach Out and Touch Space, our regular panel. And we also want to hand out again a special thanks to Mick from UK Cloud Magnets for sponsoring Reach Out and Touch Space. That's
Thanks, Mick.
brilliant. And
Thanks, Mick.
we hope you can join us on more regular occasions.
I'll certainly try.
And, actually, coming up after this show, I've jiggled things about a little bit, is the UK Magnets radio show. That is coming up straight after this show at 11 p.m. So I'm going to leave you tonight, and we'll be back on Wednesday with the World Music Show, and then Thursday with Reach Out and Touch Space. But I'm going to leave you tonight with David Bowie and Drive In Saturday.